How you doing? My name is Paul and I'm an alcoholic. And it's good to be here and it's good to be sober. And I want to thank my old friend Glenn for giving me the opportunity to do service here today. It's a great privilege and an honor to be asked to speak at a meeting of AA and one I don't take lightly. And good to see my mate there, Alden from Delaware. Good to see you, my friend. And Glenn got it sort of half right. I'm coming to you from Rockaway Beach, New York City. And I don't know if you know Rockaway Beach. It's a big Irish American neighborhood. And people who are not in AA, they will go, oh, Rockaway Beach, the Irish Riviera. But we know it better in Alcoholics Anonymous as cirrhosis by the sea, not senility by the sea, cirrhosis by the sea. In fact, there's two types of people in Rockaway Beach, those that are in AA and those that should be in AA. So if you're looking for 12-step work, feel free to come here and visit us. And, I'm not here to sell Alcoholics Anonymous today. This beautiful program and fellowship, it sells itself. This is attraction, not promotion. But I will tell you this, and I don't mean cash and prizes. You can't get where I'm sitting today at about 10 after 12 Eastern Standard Time on a Wednesday afternoon. You can't get here without Alcoholics Anonymous. And why do I continue to come to AA? I know how the movie goes, but I wouldn't miss it to see someone coming into Alcoholics Anonymous on the worst day of their life and be given the grace not to drink. And I'm a great believer that Alcoholics Anonymous is so much more than grace, it's mercy. And the definition of mercy I like the best is entering into the chaos of another person's life. And back in August of 1992, when the few people left in my life was going that way, the only people coming this way was Alcoholics Anonymous. And they carried this message. My message might even keep me sober. They carried this message. And if you're new here today, what is the message of Alcoholics Anonymous? I'm a great believer that when complete defeat through alcohol is step one, I have a body that won't let me drink and a mind that won't let me stop. One drink creates the thirst I can't quench. When I try to control my drinking, I don't enjoy it. And once I start enjoying my drinking, I can't control it. With your help, and I say as a testament to the power of AA, not myself, with your help, I haven't had a drink since August of 1992. One drink this afternoon. Not five, not 10, one. Destination unknown. And that's what showed up here in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm sitting here on a nice, chilly but bright Wednesday afternoon here in New York. And we talk about being happy, joyous, and free. And those are wonderful principles. But one of our speakers, and I know Glenn knew him quite well too, probably recorded it many times, used to always say when he was sharing that we're safe and we're sane and we're sober. And I'm sitting here this afternoon and I'm safe right now, this moment in time. I'm safe and I'm sane and I'm sober. And once again, you put one drink in me, not five, not 10, one. I'm not safe. I'm certainly not sane. And I'll be far from being sober. But if you're new here today, I want to welcome you. I'm a great believer that Alcoholics Anonymous, without the new person, it's just a room full of noise. It makes no sense to me. The whole program, our whole fellowship is predicated on helping the next alcoholic. I'm a great believer that AA is like a backwater pond. It needs fresh water. If it doesn't get fresh water, it becomes stagnant. And nothing grows in stagnant water. So you are the fresh water that keeps this thing churning around. And if you're new here today, don't think because you're new that you've got nothing to offer AA. AA, I don't think that you've got to meet AA. AA will meet you exactly where you are today. Drop an anchor where you are, and Alcoholics Anonymous will meet you exactly where you are. And I love the fact in Alcoholics Anonymous, everyone, we're a fellowship of equals. Everyone in here's got worth and it's got value. And before I forget, I forgot to say hello to Jane as well. It's so good to see her as well with Glenn. We all have worth and value here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, A is the only place I know in the world where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And everybody, whether you're a day sober, a month sober, 6 months sober, everybody, you know, there's a friend, my sponsor talks about, it's a great analogy, about the AA campfire. We all come to the AA campfire. And we all, like, I showed it with my damp log, dripping with vodka, and I threw it onto the fire. We all sit around and we blow onto the fire. And the funny thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is you can't light your own log. I need you people to keep my log lit in that fire. And I love the fact, I hope you don't hear it down where you guys are. I know Glenn's down in Tennessee, but you hear it sometimes in New York, and it drives me crazy. You'll hear people say, oh, I don't want to go into a drunken log. I don't want to go into the crash bang wallop. I understand that. Because I'm a great believer. We're a storytelling community. We're a storytelling society. We sit around the AA campfire and we tell our stories. There's a line I misquoted for years in AA, in How It Works. I would have said, how it was, what happened, and how it is. It doesn't say that. It says how we were, what happened, and how we are today. And I think there's talk about attraction, not promotion. There's such power in that when we sit down around the campfire telling our stories of how we were, what happened, and to say, I used to live like this. And because of you people in this program, I now live like this. I mean, that's powerful stuff. That's why if you're new here today, for many years in AA, I looked at the steps of AA as information. I'm an alcoholic. I need God. I should do an inventory. I looked at them as information. I realize today that the steps of AA, they're not informative. They're transformative. If you're new here today, and I stand on firm ground saying this, you go through those steps with your sponsor. You're a different person at step 12 than you were at step 1, whether you want to be or not. Now, you can go through kicking and screaming, or you can go through willingly, but I stand on firm spiritual ground telling you that you're a different person at 12 than you were at 1. And that's why we sit around this AA campfire. And I love the fact that we're a fellowship of equals. I love the fact that our fellowship it's horizontal, not vertical. It's egalitarian, not a hierarchy. And everybody in here. I mean, if you stay in AA for a while, you'll get longevity, but not seniority. If I think I'm better than somebody else because I got a few 24s, shame on me. We're all here staying sober together in Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you're new here today, get right into the middle of AA. I'm a great believer that alcoholism is a disease of disconnection. You know where my alcoholism lives? From the neck up. My alcoholism wants me talking to me about me. And why do I have to come to Alcoholics Anonymous? Because you see, my ego convinces me that this is where the big show's going on. Lights, camera, action. I come here to be reminded. In fact, the whole program, the 12 steps, 12 traditions, sponsorship, is all designed to drag me down out of here where I think the big show's going on into here where the real show is going on. Because thank God in AA, we don't speak the language of the head. That's alcoholism. We speak a different language in AA. We speak the language of the heart. I hope here in the next whatever minutes, I don't talk to an alcoholic. I hope I don't talk at an alcoholic. I hope and pray that I never get up in the spiritual hilltop and talk down to an alcoholic. What is AA? If you put AA in the refiner's fire and you bring it down to its simplest form, it's one alcoholic talking with another alcoholic to remove feelings of differentness and separateness and uniqueness. I am you and you are me. I know Glenn knew Liz very well as I did, and Liz would always say, Liz B, I was quite friendly with her. She's the first African American woman to get sober in AA. She got sober in July of 1952. She died last year. She was 100 years old, a month shy of 70 years sober. She spoke at Bill Wilson's 28th anniversary. Great woman. And Liz would always share when she was sharing, without you, there's no me. So simple, but so deeply profound. If I'm doing AA alone, I'm not doing AA. There's a friend of mine says it's BB. I said, what's BB? He says, I don't know, but it's not AA. It's sort of hard telling jokes on Zoom. It's like telling jokes in the graveyard at midnight. You're not really sure if anybody's laughing, you know? And I think this whole program is designed, as I said, to drag me down out of here into here where the real show is going on. So if you're new here today, ignore the negative messages from the brain. Because our disease thrives on anxious apartness. It wants me. This disease is a great divider. It's a great separator. It doesn't want me in the middle of AA. Because that equals, if I'm in the middle of AA, I got a chance of getting well. There's a line in the big book in chapter 4, and it talks about the old ancient theory of the flat earth. I'm a great believer that the AA world is a flat earth. If you go to the edge of AA, you're going off. And the thing about going to the edge of AA, it's a drift. It's almost a glacial drift. And you don't realize you're going till you're gone. And by the time you get to the edge of AA, if there's any signposts, there are language you don't speak anymore, and a language you don't understand anymore, because when we speak that certain language, the language of the heart, by the time I get to the edge of AA, I'm only speaking one language, the language of the head. My disease has me exactly where it wants me. Separated it, unique. Nobody understands me. My case is different. If you're all that stuff that alcoholism loves to preach into my ear. But I stay in here with you guys. I have a chance to stand well around that AA campfire. And my own story, I don't know why I'm an alcoholic. And to tell you the truth, I could care less. I love what it says in the doctor's opinion. We cannot answer the riddle. Was I born an alcoholic? Did I become an alcoholic? Was it nature? Was it nurture? Was that a symptom looking for disease? I don't know. And to tell you the truth, what's the old joke? What came first, the chicken or the keg? A lot of guys, they got drunk trying to figure that one out. I think the whole thing in AA is acceptance. I mean, everything I needed to know, I probably found out in the first 30 days in AA. That my name is Paul and I am an alcoholic. Because that tells me who I am, that tells me what I am, that tells me where I am, and that tells me what I need to be doing. Thank God the old timers didn't tell me when I came to AA, oh, Paul, your life's going to get better. They didn't say that. It says, Paul, you make the fact that your name is Paul and you're an alcoholic, you make that the central fact of your life. And things around you may not get okay, but you will be okay. And that's what I want to say to my you here today. You stay right in the middle of AA and make that the central fact of your life. I'm not going to sit here like a snake oil salesman. Maybe things around you may not get okay, but you will be okay one day at a time. And I just love that fact, you know. So my own case there has said there, like, why, whatever. I love when people are telling their stories. Like, I mean, I've heard different stories. People were successful in their lives, or some people had a modicum of success. That is not my story. I know it may come as a shock to some people here today, but I'm not from New York City originally. It's about 40 years now since I left my native Cuba. Once again, graveyard at midnight. I'm from outside of Belfast in Northern Ireland. And the sort of neighborhood I came from, if you didn't drink, you moved. Everybody drank. It was a working class neighborhood. I knew what drinking was like. It was not uncommon to see public drunkenness on a regular basis outside the door or inside the house. And I remember taking that first drink. I love, it was just last month. I love that movie, A Christmas Carol, the Dickens book, and the book as well, because it's such an allegory for life, right? You've got the ghost of the past, and the ghost of the present, and the ghost of the future. When I was up a back street outside of Belfast at 14 or 15 years of age, and someone put that first drink into my hand, and I was putting that first drink to my lips, if the ghost of my alcoholic future had stepped up at that moment and tapped me on the shoulder and said, I want to show you something. Look in that window. You see that guy drinking round the clock against his own will? You see that guy who has quicksand stretched around him in all directions? You see that guy that's pushed away everybody who mattered in his life because of drink? That will be you in 15 years. I'd have said, you're out of your mind. You must be thinking of somebody else. But that's exactly what happened. I mean, our literature talks about alcohol being a rapacious creditor. In The Merchant of Venice, Shylock just wanted 1 pound of flesh, not this disease. This disease will take my job, it'll take my car, it'll take my wife, it'll take my kids, it'll take the shirt off my back. But what it really wants is me 6 feet under. There's a lot of terminal diseases out there today. I'm not familiar with those, but I'm familiar with this one. This disease, alcoholism, will kill me stone dead with or without a drink in my body. I don't need booze in my body to burn my life to the ground. I almost done it in AA because I wouldn't accept these spiritual principles. I wouldn't accept that there was more wrong with me than drink, and it was going to take more than putting the plug in the jug to get me well in AA. So I took that first drink. It was like going from black and white to color. I realize today that most people drink because what alcohol does to them. Our literature talks about it. Why do normal people drink? A social lubricant, a sense of conviviality, companionship, not me. I don't drink because alcohol does to me. I drink because what alcohol does for me. Alcohol does something for me that it doesn't do for a normal or even a heavy drinker. 1 drink changes how I feel about me, how I feel about you, and how I feel about this. And that's why from day one, I kept coming back for more, no matter what the consequences are. You see, I want to be a consequence-free drinker. I want to drink, as it says in the doctor's opinion, with impunity, without punishment. But I'm an alcoholic. From day one, from the first night, there was consequences to my drinking. I remember even near the end of my drinking, a guy said to me, Paul, do you want to stop drinking? Or do you just want the consequences of your drinking to stop? I didn't like that question. See, I want to be a consequence-free drinker, but I'm an alcoholic. There's going to be consequences because of my drinking. And they came very quickly to me. As I said, 15 years of age, within 6 months, I'm getting my stomach pumped out in the local hospital on a school night. And they told my mother and father, it's a good job you brought him here. He probably would have died of alcoholic poisoning. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm taking daily drinking if I have the money. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm taking morning drink if I have the opportunity. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. But the good news, if you're here today, sobriety is progressive as well. And as far as you go with drink, you can come back up. And then, like I said earlier, I'm not going to sit here like some snake oil salesman. There's things I lost through drinking, and they didn't come back. And there's things you might have lost through drinking, and they might not come back either. Thank God for this program. I mean, who among us could live with the guilt and the shame and remorse of our drinking if it wasn't for the 12 steps to alleviate that? I wasn't a sociopath. I knew the bridges I burned, the damage I did, and the people I walked away from. Thank God for that program. I can't change my past, but the 12 steps allow me to live with my past one day at a time. So my life's fallen apart, as I said, in Northern Ireland. But if you know Northern Ireland history, I grew up during the Troubles over there. I was a working class Catholic, the wrong side of the tracks, big chip on my shoulder. So I'm blaming, it's just a story of my life. I'm always looking for an outside fix for what's an inside job. I'm a finger pointer. I'm always into the blame game. I'm blaming Northern Ireland and Belfast. I'm blaming all that stuff because my life's unraveling. I got to AA in the first 90 days, you find out it's an inside job. It was only when I worked on the inside that things on the outside fell into place. So I'm thinking if I just get the right job in the right country, the right continent, it's no coincidence that I'm sitting in America with an Irish accent. I was a runner, a long distance runner. But I found out in AA that every time I ran away from life, I was the guy firing the starting pistol. So my life's falling apart in Northern Ireland, and I come home to my father, and I said, I'm going to America, and don't try and talk me out of it. He says, talk you ever, hop your pack. On you go, Columbus, you know. And I packed up my bags, and I went, washed up like driftwood in Rockaway Beach here. That's amazing. Our alkies are right. You could have blindfolded me and put me in a sack. I'm going to find a neighborhood that drinks as much, if not more, than the one I just left. So I ended up here in Rockaway Beach, and I got a job as a bartender here in Rockaway Beach. I hold the distinct title of being the worst bartender in the worst bar in Rockaway Beach. I worked in a bar. You know, like nice people. I worked in a bar. We had a bouncer on the door, but he was there to throw people into the bar, not throw them out of the bar. You know, that type of place, you know? But water finds its own level, and so do alcoholics. I used to work, the bars here open from 8 a.m. to 4 a.m. I used to work the 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift. Now, this is pretty pathetic. I worked in a job where I could literally walk behind the bar at 6 o'clock at night, walk behind the stick, and pour myself a drink and put it in the speed rack. And at the end of my drinking, I couldn't even get to that job. It's pretty pathetic. I mean, what's the old saying in AA? Booze give me the wings to fly, and then it took away the sky. The herbaceous creditor. Fears, phobias, hang-ups. The story I identify the most in the big book of AA is a man who mastered fear. I was so full of fears. This neurosis, neurotic, and I mean, forget about it. I couldn't ride. At the end of my drinking, I couldn't ride elevators. Forget about the subway. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. I almost went to the graveyard thinking I had a drinking problem. Thank God I found out in AA that I don't have a drinking problem. I have alcoholism, and that's a horse of a different color. A drinking problem is solved by not drinking. Our big book talks about it. A medical reason, a change of environment, and those people can stop or even moderate. Then it talks about us. But what about the real alcoholic? I mean, my life, I've experienced every form of drinking. I was a weekend drinker as a kid, a daily drinker, a morning drinker, a binge drinker. I hit my first hospital here in Rockaway at 25. I'll give you one vignette that just sums up the difference between a drinking problem and alcoholism. This is a very ironic disease. By the time I'm 27, I'm trying to stop drinking. I can stop, but I can't stay stopped. You know what AA has given me that I can never repay them for? They've given me something between me and the first drink. I'm sitting here. You'll hear people saying, "AA, oh, you're just an arm's length away from a drink." I suppose technically that's true, but right here, right now, because of you good people on this program, yes, I'm an arm's length away from a drink, but I'm also 12 steps away from a drink. And that's a long, long way more than when I first walked into AA. But don't get me wrong, they're not 12 steps up to anything. They're 12 steps down to humility. I seen people drink again in AA that I thought would never drink again. And it could be me. Thank God I realized today, and I hope I don't forget tomorrow, that I get a daily reprieve, not a lifetime pardon. The day that I wake up thinking I'm staying sober is the day I'm getting ready to get drunk again. But right now, as our book says, I'm sitting here 12 steps away from a drink, safe and protected. Now, I'll just give you a vignette. At this stage of my drinking, when I was 27, barroom drinking had become a memory. I used to just go on these benders. And I love that. I'll just, maybe the first night I could hack it in the bar, and then I'd just lock myself in the apartment, close the blinds, and just go at it round the clock. If I was awake, I was drinking. And, you wake up, is it dawn or is it dusk? Well, who gives a damn? I'm not going anywhere anyway. I take the phone off the hook, and I wake up, pass out, wake up, pass out. This will go on sometimes for a week or 2 weeks at a time. I wouldn't eat when I was drinking. What a terrible way to live. And I ran out of drink, but I'm a bartender in Rockaway. I always know where to get drink in the middle of the night. So I go down to this bar that I knew, and the guy's cleaning the place up. I knock on the side door, and he lets me in. And he puts a bottle of Dewar's up on the counter and a glass with ice, and goes on clean the place up, and collapsed in the bar in an alcoholic seizure. Now, I had seizures before, and they brought me to the local hospital, Peninsula, and I was convulsing so bad that they put me in a restraining sheet and jacked me up full of Librium. And eventually I levels out, and they took the restraining cuffs off, and there was a woman standing at the bedside, and with this, alcoholic on again, off again relationship, and I took her hand, and I wasn't trying to be cinematic, but I took her hand, and I said to her, I can't drink. I know I can't drink. It's obvious I can't drink. And that's it. I'm never drinking again. That's it. I'm done. It's over. I'm finished. If you'd have brought in a lie detector machine into that room, I would have passed with flying colors because I meant it at a visceral level. I'm done. It's over. That's it. What does Bill Wilson say in his story? Self-knowledge. Surely that's the answer. No, it's not. Knowing I'm an alcoholic will not keep me sober. If this is a one-step program, I'm a dead man walking because I always drink again. I always will drink again. You know what I love about AA? The brilliance of Alcoholics Anonymous. The first step states the problem, and then immediately they turn us around, and it's 11 steps of solution. Alcohol is not even mentioned again after the first step. I just love that. If it had anything to do with this program, alcohol would have been mentioned in every step, but that's all I was aware of. Not the first 100 men and women. The first step states the problem, and then immediately into 11 steps of solution. I left that hospital convinced. What does Bill say? The goose hung high. Now, here's how I know that I have alcoholism. I left that hospital convinced that I wasn't going to drink again. And a week goes by, and I get a week, and all of a sudden I get this stone in my shoe. I don't know where it comes from, but it's there. 2 weeks go by, I've got this knot in my stomach, and it's like somebody's just turning it like this, 1 hour at a time. It gets tighter And 3 weeks go by, and I get 3 weeks. The top button of my shirt feels tight all the time. I'm talking through gritted teeth. A month goes by, and I got a month. You could fry eggs in the back of my neck. And I submit to you, after a month, without any alcohol, you put me in any machine in the world, you will not find a trace of alcohol in my body. I submit to you, that's not a drinking problem. That's a living sober problem. And that's why I need everything that's on offer here. 12 steps, 12 traditions, a sponsor, a home, all that stuff to arrest this disease one day at a time. And I drank again. And that woman said what non-alcoholics say, I got to get away from you before I end up in the nut house. And I say what alcoholics say, I don't need you. I don't need anybody. And I drank for 2.5 more years after that. Bottoms to bottoms. But I love when someone's telling their story. And it goes down and it goes down. And then they say what I believe is the most spiritual words in an AA qualification. And then. There's not a person in here today that's got one day or more that hasn't had an and then moment. And this is, when I hear an alcoholic say, and then, I sit up because I know the higher power is coming the next sentence. And this is my and then moment. I'm in the apartment, on another drunk. At this stage of my drinking, there's no more good times. I'm drinking for unconscious time. I remember putting a bottle of vodka to my lips, and I catch my reflection in the mirror. I think to myself, what the hell happened to me? What happened to that 14 or 15-year-old kid back in Northern Ireland? I don't know. Maybe if I can keep enough of this vodka down, I can pass out for a couple of hours, and the pain that's my life will just maybe get a couple of hours relief. And a piece of paper came under my door. I looked at this piece of paper and it said what I've been hearing since I was 15. Paul, you're a nice guy, but you drink too much. And it had a man's telephone number on it. That's strange enough, a piece of paper coming under your door. The stranger thing is, I called the number. Because I'm Irish, I'm stoic, I'm a wall builder. I built these walls high and I built them deep. You weren't getting in, but guess what? I wasn't getting out. And I built them. Nobody else. One brick at a time. I built those walls. And I called this complete stranger and his wife, a great member of Al-Anon, and answered the phone. And I heard her saying, Jerry, I think it's that Irish guy. And I hear him coming to the phone. And I said, he says, he'd obviously been told a little bit by drinking. And he said, where are you? And I told him where I lived. And he said, me and another guy is coming to your apartment. And they came over to my apartment, just two regular guys. One guy was a subway conductor. The other guy was a commercial removals guy in Manhattan. But like our literature says, they were armed with the facts about themselves. They're from the old South Bronx group in New York. And that group had a mantra, we don't give up on anybody. What a great mantra for a home group. We don't give up on anybody. And they came to my apartment. And here's the odd thing. I thought they were going to come and talk to me about my drinking. Because back in August of 92, the few people left in my life, that's what they wanted to talk about. Maybe you had these conversations. Paul, we need to talk about your drinking. And I'd stand there. What does Dr. Bob say in the story? Getting scolded. And they go, you know what you did last night? You're right. And as they're talking to me, I'm thinking, I wish they would go away so I could go drinking. It makes perfect sense to me now that God in his infinite wisdom would use alcoholics to get alcoholics sober, because I listened to nobody. Since I was a kid, friends, family, soccer coaches, girlfriends, mother, father, in one ear and out the other ear. Well, I'll listen with you people, because you're my people. You know. That's why This fellowship is so supportive. And we're all here. What does James Joyce, the Irish writer, say? He's talking about Dublin, but it's so indicative of AA. He says, here comes everybody. We're all here. Gender, color, creed. When you see an alcoholic, I know enough. If I want to know about the guy next door to me, I might have to say to him, well, where did you go to school? And are you a Yankee fan or a Met fan or Giants? Not in AA. You tell me an alcoholic, I know you've experienced terror, frustration, bewilderment, despair. I know that because you're telling me you're an alcoholic. And that connects us together. So those two men came to my apartment, and here's the ironic thing. They didn't talk about my drinking. They talked about their drinking. And they told story after story of their drinking. And then the magic happened. Our most prized possession in AA, identification. They talked about them, and I found out about me. What did Dr. Bob say when he first met Bill Wilson? It was the first human being he had ever met that he felt fully understood him, and not because he read it in a book somewhere. We're uniquely qualified because we know. We mightn't have drank next to each other, but we know. I mean, there's not one person here today, I guarantee you, when you're at the first time I remember the first time at a meeting, I'd heard these words separately, but the first time I heard them read together, pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. I didn't have to turn to the guy next to me and go, what exactly are they talking about? We all know. It's seared on our souls for the time we hit AA, what pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization is. And those two men talked about their drinking. And here's the thing, we talk about winning the confidence. I told these two men within 20 minutes something I hadn't told myself. I coughed up the big fur ball and I said to these men, I can't stop drinking. I can't. The last time I was in a hospital, I was drinking the same day as I got out of the hospital. What's wrong with me? And the guy put his arm around me and he said, what I believe is the most powerful words an alcoholic can hear. He said, help is on the way. If you're new here today, even though it's virtually, I want to put my arm around you and tell you help is on the way. Little did I know that'd be my sobriety date. About 36 hours later, I was well enough to get bookended into a car. I got them. I brought my first meeting of AA. And walking in a meeting of AA is the greatest singular event in my life. Everything else is secondary and tertiary. I'm so glad there wasn't a guy standing that night with a clipboard saying, hey, check the box for what you want. I had to check the box for not drinking. And I had to shortchange myself. Yes, I got that, but I got so much more. I got me back, I got you back, and I got him back. And I would like to tell you in the last minutes here that I came to AA, grabbed the ball, and scored a touchdown. But I came into AA with a lot of old ideas. Our literature says, let go absolutely of all your old ideas. And I came into AA with a lot of old ideas. Barroom mentality. Barroom mentality that might serve you well at 2 o'clock in the morning, some gin mill, but was not helping me in AA. Now, we talk about the 3 parts of the triangle, which I believe you can work from your first meeting. Unity, service, recovery. Unity. We do together what I can't do alone. Many meetings make it easy, few make it impossible. I need you and you need me. There's one lifeboat that's called AA. Service. Glenn remembers one gentleman used to speak, you said, the highest pay grade in AA is servant. It keeps you tethered to AA. It keeps you connected. Recovery. Maybe the 12 steps seem like a foreign concept. If you're new, we have slogans in AA. Easy does it. live and let live, one day at a time. They were like the banisters to the steps. Now I was doing unity. I was going to plenty of meetings. I was doing service. I'm making more coffee than Juan Valdez. You kidding me? But I wouldn't do door number 3. I wouldn't do recovery. Contempt prior to investigation. You're looking at it. And there was people, I had a sponsor name only. I'm talking about the first, I was 2.5 years into AA, doing plenty of meetings, doing loads of service, but no program. I've been jumping off place twice in my life. Once with drink, and once with no drink and no program. It's a different type of pain, but it's pain nonetheless. I came into AA, I didn't know very much money. After 2.5 years with no drink and no program, I'm thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt. And I know why today. I was still trying to fill the hole in my soul with outside stuff. I'd take a trip to the Caribbean, charge it to my credit card, but I always end up back in the same equation, me on me, and I can't get me off of me. I'm shackled to self by the very nature of this disease. And there was people talking about the problem and the solution and how to go between the two. What does Chuck Chamberlain say? You'll eventually see what you came here to see, and you'll eventually hear what you came here to hear. But you have to have eyes to see and ears to hear. And I didn't. I was a closed circuit. Nothing was getting in. And there was people, good people. And here's the thing about my alcoholism. My ego is so defended. My ego has got such a desire to be right at all costs. There was people, good people in AA, pointing to the solution, pointing to the steps, pointing to the traditions. But rather than look at what they're pointing at, what does my ego do? I look at who's doing the pointing. What does he know? What does she know? What do they know? And I'll find fault with you. And that allows me to dismiss you, disregard you, and discount what yours. I mean, we have a word for that in our book. It's called plain insanity. I mean, my alcoholic ego would prefer death over change. I mean, how crazy is that? What's the old joke? They're putting the alcoholic in the grave, and they're all standing around, and they hear a voice coming out of the coffin. What's that? And you hear a voice saying, I was right. And we all laugh at that, but it's true. My alcoholic ego will take me to the graveyard. And thank God I got to a point at 2.5 years sober. My life's completely unmanageable in AA. And a guy came up to me one night at a meeting, and he wasn't my sponsor. And he says, Paul, can I talk to you? I said, sure. He says, you're dying. And you're dying right in the middle of it. He says, you know what you're like? You're like a starving man at a spiritual banquet. There's all this food on offer, and you're living on bread and water. That's exactly what I was doing. And I'm here to tell you, you can fool them at the coffee pot at 7:30 at night. I've done it. How's it going, Paul? Oh, it's going great. You know when untreated alcoholism would come to visit me? 2 o'clock in the morning. Could-haves, should-haves, would-haves, guilt, shame, remorse. And every night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, this book would magically appear on my bedside table. And it wasn't a big book. It was called Where I Should Be in My Life by Now by Paul McQ. I hope you don't have one of those books at home. If you have, throw it in the garbage. You start reading that book at 3 o'clock in the morning with no drink and no program, you're ready to put a rope over the rafters. And that guy spoke to me that night at the meeting. The next day, God's never late. I'm driving out of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. on the Gowans Expressway. I'm sure Glenn remembers it. 6 lanes, rush hour traffic, and a guy cut me off. This is 2.5 years off drink with no program. I chase after him. I jam him against the guardrail. I got out of my car. I'm out of my mind. I'm not that type of guy. I never done anything like that drinking. I go back to the guy's car. There's an Asian man sitting behind the wheel shaking. His wife's crying in the passenger seat, and his 3 children are crying in the back of the car. This is 2.5 years off drink with no program. This is called untreated alcoholism. I apologized. I got back in my own car. I hit my head off the steering wheel. I said, I'm crazier off drink than I was on it. And in some respects, that's true. I do to my sponsor's house in name only. I pulled up sober a long time, but you can only help somebody that wants to be helped. I'd went about as far as you could go on osmosis. Nobody could go further than I tried. I pulled up at his door. He was sober a long time, smoking a cigar on his porch. I says, Jimmy, I told him what I just told you. He said, would I tell you something, Paul? You've been tiptoeing around this program. You've been doing it your way for 2.5 years. Everybody's tried to help you. I've tried to help you. We've all tried to help you. And you know what you're like? You're like the Heisman Trophy. You got the stiff arm out there, keeping everybody at arm's length, doing it your way. He said, if you don't get into this program, if you don't get into these steps, if you don't get free from the one guy you've never got free from, which is you, and start living where you've never lived here now, your life's going to go on lived in AA, and that's on you. George Eliot, the writer, says, it's never too late to live the life you are meant to live. We talk about all the tragedies in AA, the terrible things that happen when people are drinking. No, one of the most saddest things in AA is sitting in the rooms of AA and living an unlived life. And I was doing it. He says, Paul, this is your miracle. The least you can do is participate in it. I was a spectator of my own miracle show. AA, it's organic. AA, you got to get your hands into AA. It's not intellectual, it's experiential. And against my better judgment, in fact, everything that's helped me in AA has been against my better judgment. And thank God that time at 2.5 years sober, after that event on the Gowans Expressway, my ego was suspended just enough to allow in new information. Because you know what? It's easy to do what you want to do in AA. That's a walk in the park. I got sober doing things I didn't want to do. Or how about this? Doing things I didn't believe in. What the hell has that got to do with me pouring vodka down my neck? But I was at a point, a jumping off point, that I was willing to take actions that I didn't believe in. And thank God my ego was suspended just enough to allow in new information that saved my life. We talk about a story, and some people would say it's a religious story, but it's really a spiritual story. And it's a story of the prodigal son. And we're all prodigal sons and prodigal daughters. And you know how the story goes. The guy gets his inheritance, and he goes off and he burns his life to the ground. And then he decides to go back home. And his father thinks he's dead, but he hears his son's alive. So it's a big party. I read that story many, many times. Someone pointed out to me. It says the son comes up to the house. It never actually says if he goes in. If you're here today, you've been called to the spiritual banquet. Don't do what I did. Don't stand outside looking through the window. Don't go in and stand in the corner and settle for crumbs from the table. Come in, sit all the way down, and partake of everything that's on offer. Your higher power wants to give to you in abundance. Now, your abundance might look different than my abundance, but when I'm standing outside looking through the window, it can't happen What did Mother Teresa say? Even God can't fill a cup that's already full. I had to empty myself out with these steps to allow something new in. In the last minute or two, is it nice to do the steps and find out who you are and who you're not? Yeah. It's nice to get a full knowledge of your condition. But you know, my life caught on fire when I turned around and tried to bring another man through the program. That's when great events came to pass. And if you're new here today, I'm not saying the steps are the panacea for everything. Getting sober is not easy if you're new. Getting sober is probably the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life, except one other thing: drink yourself to death. And the roller coaster goes up and the roller coaster goes down. Just don't get off. Stay on. Ride it out. I know we threw the word miracle around a lot today. What is a miracle? It's a complete reversal or upheaval of the laws of nature. It's in my nature to be lying drunk somewhere today, and I'm not. Now, this is not a sales pitch. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If you're new here today, it tells me and I'll tell you. Number one, you're just 12 steps away from a new life. That's all. Number two, there's a miracle here with your name on it. Nobody can take it for you, and nobody can take it from you. Come into AA and start to live the life that your higher power always wanted you to live before drink took you down a different road. I thank you for my sobriety today. It's good to know who you are and where you belong. It just frees up so much of the hard drive for the good things that life has to offer. I'm an alcoholic, and I belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. So sitting here today, it's so good to know who I am and where I belong. And I'm an alcoholic, and I belong with you good people in Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you so much for my sobriety, and that's all I'll say, Glenn. Thank you.